Andrea threw her backpack to the floor in irritation. Once again, she tried to explain to her mother that she did not want to see her stepfather at her birthday party, but she only shook her head disapprovingly. "Andrea, please, you can't do this. Donald treats you like his own daughter. It's thanks to him you have pretty dresses and everything else. We owe everything to him." "How can you not understand, Mom? He's just using you, and you don't notice anything. You're just a servant to him, who keeps the house in order and does his every whim. Haven't you understood that in 5 years he is not worthy of you, and I hate him?" Patricia looked at her daughter, shifting her eyebrows sadly. She reminded Andrea that it was Donald they should be grateful to for helping them after her father's death. They were in a terrible situation then, and Donald had married her and given them a roof over their heads. Patricia was sure that Donald loved them, but Andrea wouldn't listen to anything. The girl kicked the backpack away with anger again and stopped talking. The mother only shook her head reproachfully and left the room. Andrea threw herself on the bed and sobbed in despair. It took about 10 minutes before the girl was able to calm down. She rolled over onto her back and lay there with her eyes open for a long time, thinking that she could never love this unpleasant man, no matter how her mother tried to change her mind. Donald had done nothing wrong to Andrea. It seemed to everyone from the outside that he really loved his wife and her daughter, but Andrea, with her amazing intuition, felt that this man was a skilled deceiver and not as harmless as he was trying to show. She felt something disturbing, but so far she had no evidence to reveal his true face to anyone. Andrea sighed heavily. She no longer had the strength to fight with her mother, so she decided to agree with her and tolerate her stepfather's presence at her birthday party, just to keep her mother from crying. Besides, she would soon be an adult, and then no one would be able to make her do anything she didn't want to. Andrea left the room, went into the kitchen, and hugged her mother, who was standing at the sink. "All right, let him be at the party too, but I won't change my opinion of him anyway." Patricia hugged her daughter and promised that all would be well with them, and she herself would admit her mistake later. 6 months passed. Andrea graduated with honours from high school and got into a university. The stepfather was happy for Andrea, but something still bothered the girl. She no longer spoke to her mother about it, believing that it would not do any good, and kept her thoughts to herself. The first semester was over. Studying was easy for Andrea, and she could have achieved better results if she had tried harder. But a new life began. There were new acquaintances and the inevitable first love. She was crazy about her young man. They had just started dating, and one day he asked her to spend the whole day together. Although it was required to skip classes at the university, but Andrea was not particularly worried, because she could easily make up for all the missed material. But at home, nobody was supposed to know that she was skipping classes. In addition, for some reason, her stepfather had been asking her about her study schedule every day lately. One morning, everyone woke up and, as usual, got ready for their own business. Andrea went to the university, her mother went to work, and her stepfather, who had a day off that day, was also going about his errands. Andrea left the house first. She planned to wait until everyone had gone away, and then she was going back to the house to change for her date. She wandered dreamily in the neighbouring park for an hour and then hurried back to the apartment. The house was quiet. Andrea rushed into her room, changed into a beautiful dress, which flattered her figure, and twirled for a while in front of the mirror, meticulously examining herself from all sides. Deciding to add the final touch to her look, Andrea went to her mother's bedroom to get a red lipstick, which would be very helpful to her now. Andrea spent a few minutes looking for lipstick when suddenly she heard with horror the key being turned in the keyhole. The girl froze, realizing that she would be in big trouble if someone caught her in the house at this time. She heard her stepfather's voice and realized that her worst fears had been confirmed. She had no choice but to hide in the clothes closet and wait for Donald to leave. But things didn't work out the way she'd anticipated. Donald was not alone. Andrea heard a woman's voice and even thought it was her mother at first, but when the woman laughed, she immediately realized it wasn't her. Andrea was trying to figure out what was going on, but then the door to the bedroom opened and her stepfather and an unknown woman walked into the room. At that moment, everything became clear to Andrea. She held her breath and felt her heart pounding hard. She couldn't believe that Donald was such a shameless hypocrite that he dared bring another woman into the marital bedroom. Andrea closed her eyes, trying to distract herself from this situation and not see what was happening. But then suddenly she opened them abruptly. The girl realized that this was the chance she had waited so long for, and she could not miss it. Andrea cautiously pulled out her phone, turned off the sound, and turned on the camera. Opening the closet door slightly, she, barely breathing, took a few pictures and began shooting video. She was hurt by what she saw, but she needed proof. Now she could show her mother exactly what a disgusting man Donald was, and that he didn't love her at all. An hour later, the lovers left, and Andrea got out of the closet, grabbed her things, and ran out of the house. She didn't go on the date, telling her boyfriend that she wasn't feeling well. She needed time to think things over. If she told her mother now, she would either ruin her life or the opposite would save her. After agonizing for about half an hour, she finally called her mother and asked her to get off work and come in early. "Andrea, what's wrong? Are you all right?" asked Patricia with fear, hearing the anxious tones in her daughter's voice. "No, Mum, I'm fine," rushed Andrea to reassure her. "But we need to talk right away. Let's meet at the cafe near your work in an hour." Sitting in the cafe, the girl still could not start a conversation. Patricia looked at her with incomprehensible eyes, waiting for her to tell her what happened. Andrea sighed heavily, and taking her mother's hand and firmly squeezing it with her hands, finally gathered her strength and started her speech. "Mum, I'm sorry for what I'm about to do, but I can't lie to you. You deserve a better life, and if you make the right decision now, we'll be okay. We'll get through this. Believe me, because I'll always be there for you. We have to stop clinging to the past and living in illusions. Please listen to me and try to understand. I just want you to be happy." Then Andrea told her everything and showed the pictures and videos. Patricia listened heroically to everything Andrea said, calmly watched all the pictures and videos, and not a single muscle flinched on her face. When Andrea finished her story, there was a heavy silence at the table. Patricia looked at her hands in silence for 10 minutes, without shedding a single tear, and then she stood up, sighed heavily, took her purse, and stood up from her seat. "Let's go home, dear. We still have a lot to do. We have to make it through the weekend to pack everything, find an apartment, and move in. I don't know how we'll make it and what happens next, but we have no choice." Andrea looked at her mother in surprise and smiled, feeling that they were about to start a new life. A year passed. Andrea was sitting and waiting for her mother in the restaurant again. The mood was great. She saw through the window how quickly her mother walked along the sidewalk with a man who firmly held her hand. Then he whispered something in her ear, and the woman laughed happily and then stopped and hugged the man and kissed him tightly. Andrea smiled, and the events of the past year flashed through her mind. She still could not forget the scandal that had broken out in the house when she and her mother were packing. They had to move quickly to the first rented apartment they could find. It was a wonderful coincidence, but the owner turned out to be Andrea's teacher at the university. Paul was her mother's age, and the man showed real generosity and kindness by not charging them the rent for the apartment, because he really wanted to help. After a while, things flared up between her mother and Paul, but the woman was not immediately able to trust the man again. But now the couple are inseparable, and Andrea was delighted because her mother had finally met a good man who makes her happy. "Well, are we going to celebrate or are we going to keep dreaming?" said Patricia with a kiss to her daughter's cheek. Andrea was distracted from her memories and smiled. "Of course, it's your wedding. We'll party until morning," smiled the girl happily, rejoicing for the newlyweds and the fact that now they'll all be fine.